You will not be able to turn your microphone on or off. This will be done for you. The button on your microphone will only allow you to join or remove yourself from the list of councillors requesting to speak. Members are also reminded that when speaking, comments should be addressed through the chairman and members should speak clearly into their microphones. Members are also reminded that when the chairman starts to speak, you are to stop speaking and be seated. The length of time for speeches remains 5 minutes. You'll be warned when you have 30 seconds left and when your time is up. At points in this meeting, we will be voting by show of hands. However, and we did vote on this, for 4 reports and the motion on the agenda, I have requested for the voting buttons. You will be talked through this as the votes happen. Please be aware that these electronic votes are not a recorded vote, but the Democratic Services team will have access after the meeting to know how each member voted on these items. The only occasion we'll be using a roll call vote will be if a recorded vote is requested. The rules of debate are set out in the Constitution, but here is a brief reminder. A member may speak once on motions and once on each amendment that is put, other than exercising the right of reply at the end of debate on a substantive motion or an amendment. The only time a member may speak a second time is to raise a point of order, point of information, or a point of personal explanation. Points of order may only relate to an alleged breach of the Council procedure rules or the law. Any councillor who wishes to raise a point of order must indicate the rule or law and the way in which they consider it has been broken. A point of information provides any councillor with the ability to intervene should they believe another councillor is providing the council with incorrect information, thereby saving the council from being misled and saving time. A point of personal explanation may only relate to some material part of an earlier speech made by the councillor, which may appear to have been misunderstood during the debate. We will now start to work through our agenda. Agenda item 1. I will ask the Democratic Service Manager to confirm whether any questions have been received from members of the public.
Thank you, Chairman. No, we've had no questions or statements from members of the public. Thank you.
Thank you, James. We'll now move on. Agenda item 2. Apologies for absence. Can I ask the Democratic Service Manager to confirm any apologies that have been received?
Thank you again, Chairman. We've had apologies in advance of the meeting from Councillors Ian Stokes and Sarah Trotter. I don't know whether councillors in the Chamber have got any further apologies. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. There being no further apologies. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Shorrock is on his way from Nottingham and should be here at approximately 2:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Agenda item 3, disclosure of interests. Members are reminded that a disclosable pecuniary interest should be declared in those circumstances whereby there is a direct impact relating to those items listed on their register of interests. For example, this will include employment, trade or profession as well as any contracts or licences held with the Council. This also includes any land owned or rented in the district by the member or their partner. Members should also consider whether they have any registrable interests or non-registrable interests that would need declaring at the meeting in accordance with the Council Code of Conduct. Once you have declared an interest, you should leave the meeting, not speak or vote on the debate. You are entitled to speak in the same capacity as a member of the public in respect of other registrable interests and non-registrable interests, but must leave the chamber immediately after doing so. If any member has any interest that they need to disclose, please indicate that now. Thank you. If during the debate it becomes clear that you have a disclosable pecuniary interest or any other interest in an item, you can declare it at the relevant point of the meeting. We progress to agenda item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. This item is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of November 2024. Any correction should be regarding the accuracy of the substance of the minutes, not typographical errors which should have been raised with the Democratic Service team when the minutes were published. If you wish to make any further corrections to the minutes, please indicate now. We doing so well. Could I get a proposer for the minutes, please? Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Leadenham. I couldn't see your surname, Robert. I apologise. Yeah. Got the wrong glasses on. Could I ask for a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Abstentions 2. Thank you. 3. Did we get those? Thank you very much. Motion carried. Took me time to turn the page over. Agenda item 5, communications, including my announcements. The visits I've done prior to this meeting should be on a list in front of you. It's been a relatively quiet time since our last meeting. I had at least 2 or 3 engagements cancelled because of the inclement weather, and now it would be appropriate also, if I may, to pass on our congratulations to our officers, to our members, to our team that did such a sterling job during that period of bad, awful weather, as always. But I actually think that South Kesteven dealt with it really, really well, so thank you. Thank you. And from the Chair, I wish to thank Mr. Fred Mann, who has recently stepped down from his role of many years as our independent person. Fred has supported the Standards Committee and the Monitoring Officer in relation to the conduct of councillors for many years. I would like to publicly thank and put on record Fred for all his valuable assistance during this long period and wish him well. I'll now invite any announcements from Cabinet members, the leader, or Cabinet members, heads of paid services. Anyone? Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. I associate myself with the comments you just made about the flooding and so on. Just to let members know that a schedule of meetings for next year has been sent out. It is draft. It awaits approval from the annual general meeting. But I think that's the earliest a calendar has ever been sent out, which means that it should be easier for you to book your luxurious holidays in the summer or whatever you're planning to do. Cabinet, I've sent out today a list of reallocations of responsibilities within Cabinet. The thing you're all interested in, most of all, I guess, is local government reorganisation and whether or not we're going to be here in a few years' time. The verdict is still out. I know that Martin Hill, the leader of the County Council, sent a letter to the government to say that if they were to postpone the elections, then he wouldn't be objecting to the postponement of the County Council elections. I had a rumour yesterday that the Council were going to be postponing the County Council elections, but then later in the day I had a rumour from a more reliable source that they weren't going to be postponing the County Council elections. I guess we'll find out soon. We will also find out soon what the terms of engagement are for local government reorganisation. As I've sent out via email, we don't know with local government reorganisation whether the rules of the game are going to mean that we have to adhere to staying within, for example, a mayoral authority or a police authority, or the Saxon boundaries, as I call them, the ancient Lincolnshire. We don't know whether we can go over any border in any direction, and we won't know that firmly until a letter arrives from the Minister, which was due by the end of January, but on the 30th of January has not yet arrived. When it does, I'll let you know. I'll be happy to share. So, sorry that doesn't inform you very much. I'm telling you as much as I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy New Year. Happy New Year
And
to
you.
everyone. I think it's still allowed to say Happy New Year on the 30th of January. Councillor Gill, we can't disagree this early in the meeting. Come on, give me some credit. We can at least amicably agree on that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is good to see everybody here, and I hope that you've had a restorative break and have returned to the Chamber with a renewed passion to support our residents and remembering that we are all pulling in the same direction, speaking for those who need their voices amplifying. I would like to update members with progress on the A1 and the litter that has been blighting our stretch of the A1 for decades. We have been working closely with National Highways, Mr Chairman, and their contractor over a significant period to ensure a safe and effective approach, and I am delighted to say that on-site operations should begin. That is should, because ultimately we are not the ones who are responsible. It is up to the contractor at the end of the day, on the week commencing the 10th of February. We have updated local stakeholders, we have updated our local MPs. A letter went out to this effect earlier this week. The Council has been working to address this issue for quite a considerable length of time, and one of our key challenges has been finding a safe and cost-effective method of dealing with the issue. Finance is not the only obstacle to progress, given how dangerous that road is. And I'm sure our thoughts go out to all of the families who have experienced loss and bereavement based on incidents on that road over the last 6 months. To be proactive, we have invested in new bins for laybys. These have been securely staked in place, taking concerns from this chamber that the bins were blowing over. A dedicated team will now service the A1 laybys 3 times per week, with a caged wagon to ensure that the litter is collected efficiently. Commuters will now see these bins emptied regularly, and that provides appropriate capacity for waste disposal along the road. And I know I speak for everybody in this chamber when I condemn the selfish individuals tossing their litter from their moving vehicle, impacting our rural home and threatening our local wildlife. We have explored opportunities to coordinate our work with National Highways and Department for Transport, but we are still awaiting a response to our formal correspondence. We therefore engaged directly with National Highways and their contractor, resulting in this possibility of litter picking alongside scheduled overnight road closures. These discussions, whilst they took some time, have been positive. The contractor has allowed the council to deploy 2 teams of 4 staff to work in designated areas behind the roadworks where they will not interfere with the primary roadworks or compromise safety. This will only be on the offside verge. It will not take place in the divide, the central reservation, thank you, the central reservation between the 2 carriageways, as we must by law have a gap of 1.2 metres from any working operative to an active carriageway. That other carriageway will still be working at night. Given the risks associated with working at night, because this is a night closure, a series of night closures, all staff will be required to obtain the CSCS card, which is Construction Skills Certification Scheme. We have purchased specialist PPE. We have purchased additional lighting, as the contractor will not provide illumination for the site. All of our vehicles have now been upgraded to ensure they comply with Chapter 8 standard, meaning they are fully equipped with beacons, signage, chevrons, all to maximise visibility and safety. I really want to thank our street scene team who responded positively to this call for volunteers to work additional shifts in unsocial hours and dangerous conditions because they believe in this district. They're still turning up for work the following day. This is excellent work, and I want to put on record my thanks to them, but also my thanks to the leadership, my thanks to Karen Whitfield. That is a culture within that department that speaks for itself. It is a what can we do, not what can we get away with doing. So whilst this is a significant step forward, I do want to make sure that we all understand the limitations of the work, hence mentioning the central reservation, hence mentioning that there are strict safety regulations preventing work within 1.2 metres of moving traffic, and that we have to work behind the roadworks. We cannot overtake them, we cannot impinge upon them. So it might look as if not a lot of work has been done. That will be down to how much we are allowed to cover in the time. I am more than happy to provide written answers to any follow-ups from this, Mr. Chairman, but just thought we could all do with an update on that good news to start the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Baker. Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, all. Happy Christmas. Two very short announcements. Firstly, since the leaders asked me kindly to be Cabinet Member for the Armed Forces matters, may I remind colleagues that this year sees the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. I wasn't there. Victory in Europe, VE Day, will be commemorated on the 8th of May, and victory over Japan, VJ Day, is on the 15th of August. I've already had informal chats with appropriate officers and our armed forces champion, Councillor Richard Warren Dixon, who I look forward to working with, and I can report that SKDC will commemorate these important anniversaries and will assist where possible to support commemorative events across the district. Secondly, on planning, members, I'm sure, will have seen that the new government has now published the amended National Planning Policy Framework, updating the number of houses, new houses, each planning authority is expected to give planning consent to. Emma Whittaker and her team are working overtime on how we can best meet those challenges, and I thank them for that. I will be presenting a report to Cabinet on February the 11th, giving details of the impact of these changes on our local plan review and how we can meet the challenges in the interests of this authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and Merry Christmas to you too. Councillor Noss.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and seasonal greetings to everybody. My brief discussion or announcement is about the document you've all got in front of you, the Councillor Personal Development Plan. This has been raised in the past at various meetings, and it has been raised and unanimously accepted as being a desirable thing to have. Constant development of members must be, by definition, a step forward in the quality of representation we have with our members, our constituents. How we understand problems, both the detail and the context within those problems occur, and how we understand and manage people, again, both personally, internally and externally, improving our quality of performance must do benefit to the whole of SKDC. The response so far has been a little mixed. There is a forum that has been created in order to manage this situation, which Graham Watts is leading, and I would now ask you to treat this document very, very seriously and try to accommodate its requirements as best you can. Even, although we prefer not to have, even a nil return for training needs or whatever is better than no return at all. Although we all want you to consider seriously your own personal development and how you can benefit SKDC because of that. I'll just give a personal example. I am notorious and sometimes amusingly agnostic about the use of machines like this. Everybody knows and is aware that I'm not the best on it, but I've got to stop treating it like a joke, start treating it like an important situation that I've got to accommodate. And I will be spending, I've already started with this, but I'll be trying to make sure that I become, if not an expert, certainly more capable of handling these machines and the things that come on it, because it includes important information for me and it gives me a better response. And I've been guilty in the past of not concentrating on that response. And I ask everybody to look at their own position with regard to their position as a councillor and to do what they can to make become as proficient and helpful as possible. So I refer this to you again. Please, please and particularly the group leaders, can you help with that process to make sure that everybody takes this seriously and looks at personal development in a much more serious light? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm now going to move on to... Sorry. Our CEO told us got an announcement. Welcome back, Karen. I apologise because you're sitting there and I didn't see you.
Gosh, I've only been away for 6 days. Thank you, members. Just a statement from myself. Just need to inform you a temporary change to polling stations location is required for the election on the 1st of May. Stamford Rugby Club is the usual polling station for Stamford All Saints and St John Ward, but due to refurbishment, this will not be available. So, as returning officer, I have the delegated authority to make changes to polling stations in the event that the venue becomes unavailable. In these circumstances, I've made an officer-delegated decision to temporarily change the polling station for the area from the Stamford Rugby Club to the Stamford and District Indoor Bowling Club, Exeter Gardens, Stamford. This is only for the elections, who knows what it will be, on the 1st of May 2025. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Karen, and apologies to you because I was made aware that you needed an announcement, but coming back to Councillor Knowles' comments about his inadequacy with technology, my inadequacy is an old man not listening, so I apologise. Agenda item 6, fees and charges proposal. This report sets out the proposed fees and charges to be introduced for the financial year 2025-2026. I'm going to call on Councillor Baxter, who hopefully is going to talk us through this. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to introduce the report on fees and charges, which I hope will be quite dull, given that we have had the conversations already at Environment Overview Scrutiny Committee, Finance Overview Scrutiny Committee and at Cabinet. Fees and charges are a key element of the Council funding, which raise about £8 million towards the delivery of services, and in many cases the services are ring-fenced. I'm getting the light in my eyes. The principles and criteria are set out in a fees and charges policy which hasn't been approved by Council, which will be reviewed during 2025. It is an approved recommendation from a recent internal audit review. Charges are split between statutory charges, which are those set by government mainly, and discretionary charges, which are set by the Council directly. Discretionary, obviously, are those that are set by Council, and we have the opportunity to review them on an annual basis. I guess when we like, but it would be... No, we need to do it on an annual basis because those fees and charges come into effect from the beginning of the civic year, which is why we're discussing them separate to the budget, which we discuss in more detail next month, and we have a chance to tell people how much they are going to be charged for various items. Most of the charges are not proposed to change. There are no changes to bus station departure charges. There are no changes to market charges, the fees for having a market stall. There are no changes proposed for bulky waste, even though we are bringing in a new vehicle which should make a significant difference to the amount of time it takes for us to come and collect your bulky waste, or anybody's bulky waste. The fee that we have building control fees, which get a special mention because they are not yet published in the public domain, it being a relatively competitive service, and the paper asks for you to delegate the authority to the Deputy Chief Executive and 151 Officer in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Planning, Councillor Dilks, to set these commercial charges. The charge which is proposed to change after discussion with the Environment Committee and the Finance Committee are green waste bin annual charges. We propose an increase of £2 on the first bin, taking it to £53, and an increase of £2 on all subsequent bins to £44. As I've said, this was debated in detail at Environment Scrutiny Committee and approved by Cabinet earlier this year, so I hope that you'll all agree that that one change of charges is fine. All the other charges that I haven't mentioned are either staying the same or more likely being raised in line with inflation. Any questions?
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Are you seconding the motion, Councillor Knight? Councillor Stokes, you seconding the motion? Yeah. Do you wish to speak now or hold off? So therefore now I can go to Councillor Knight.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to propose 2 amendments to the fees and charges. As these are not in any way connected, I'll table the first now and table the second separately after Council has had the opportunity to vote on the first, or if the Leader deems to accept it. The first of these amendments concerns a sensitive topic and asks for forgiveness in advance for the factual and deliberately cold nature of what I'm about to say, as under no circumstances do I want to cause any upset to anyone affected. I refer members to page 65 of your pack, fees related to Grantham Cemetery. It came to my attention that SKDC charges differential fees for Muslims. This instinctively sat very uncomfortably with me, so I made some inquiries. The vast majority of councils do not do this, and after some investigation speaking to officers, fellow councillors and practising Muslims, nobody has given me a satisfactory answer as to why we have one set of fees for Muslims and another for non-Muslims. I should explain that the Muslim interment fee effectively incorporates both the traditional burial fee and the exclusive right of burial fee, so as things are proposed, this is the effect. If you are burying a non-Muslim over the age of 16, it will cost £1,524, but if you are burying a Muslim, it will cost £1,181, which is £343 more to bury a non-Muslim. If you are burying a non-Muslim aged 3 to 16, it will cost £1,080, but if you are burying a Muslim, it will cost £1,181, 101 less to bury a non-Muslim. But most alarmingly of all, if you are burying a non-Muslim child aged 2 or under, it will cost £1,080, but if you are burying a Muslim, it will cost £584, which is £496 more for a non-Muslim. These fees are clearly discriminatory, nonsensical, and to my mind verging on cruel. I therefore submit an amendment that seeks to rectify this. And the monitoring officer received this in advance. Hopefully you'll be able to see it on the screen imminently.
We will get it there.
There we are. Firstly, it gets rid of the separate fees for Muslim interments entirely, so there will be no discrimination against or in favour of any resident based on religion. And secondly, because of the nature of getting rid of the Muslim interment fees is to increase the cost of burial of a Muslim child aged 2 or under, it introduces a new lower fee for exclusive right of burial, which in effect keeps the cost of burying a young child at the same rate it would have been for a Muslim child. Taken together, these proposals have a negligible effect on council finances, not least as we bury less than 1 Muslim per year on average, so largely fall outside the scope of being a major change, but I nevertheless consulted the Chief Finance Officer ahead of this meeting. This is not an amendment that will have any material effect on many people, but it does seek to right what I consider to be an anomaly in our fee schedule, and I hope the Leader will accept this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a seconder for that first amendment? And that's, yep. Thank you, Councillor. I've got to put the wrong glasses on, Mickey. It's just not working. Any minute now. Councillor Manterfield, thank you. Do you wish to speak now or do you wish to hold? Yeah. So I suppose the next bit is, do you accept this amendment, Councillor Baxter?
May I... Sorry, Chair. First of all, it would have been useful to see this amendment in advance at any point during the last 3 or 4 months, and then I would be able to speak with authority about, for example, the cost of the council. Before I decide whether to accept the amendment or not, I'm able to ask for advice from officers, please. First of all, I'd like to understand the reason for the differential cost. I understand that it relates to the actual costs incurred for Muslim burials, and I think the procedure or the protocol, the custom for burial and what the impacts are. But also, are we able to get from officers chapter and verse of how many Muslim burials we have had in the last, say, 2 or 3 years?
Karen.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Leader. So when we looked at this, it became apparent that in the last 5 years, when we introduced Muslim burials, we've only had a total of 4. So the differentials are very, very low. In terms of the increased cost for Muslim burials, it's because it has to be done within a certain time frame. So often we have to bring a contractor in, say, at the weekend. So that's additional cost. However, when we looked, we weren't charging an exclusive right of burial on top of that interment fee. So actually the price from a Muslim burial was working out cheaper than a routine burial. But as I say, the impact is very minimal because we do so few of them. In terms of the younger fee for the younger child under 2, again we do very, very few of those, but we do actually claim that money back from the government. So reducing that fee would be counterintuitive.
Did that help, Councillor?
The bit that I heard the most was that... Sorry, am I... Yeah. We've only had 4 Muslim burials in South Kesteven in the last 4 years. 5 years. Okay. And your proposal, Councillor Knight, is to increase the cost of a Muslim burial.
Through the chair, please, Councillor. I allowed that to happen because it was an instant question to Councillor Knight. And obviously, because this question wasn't raised prior to this meeting and through the various committees, it has given all of us food for thought, certainly the officers and certainly for the leader. How we come through this, I'm sure we are going to be able to. So I do have 3 people who have put their name down wishing to speak. So I will start working my way through those that can give everyone time to think. But you have a point of information, Councillor Bishnell Singh, so would you give that information now, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologise for jumping in. And yes, Leader, I can't see there's any difference or a different ceremony that is taken, for a Muslim burial or a Hindu burial. It's the same. It's a burial is to put a body in the actual the dug grave. So I think it should be. I agree. They should be the same fees apply across the board, no matter who it is. This is my personal thing. Unless there is something other different services, probably officers may have come across it. Then we would like to hear it before we actually make the decision. Obviously, if there is a different procedure for burying, for lowering a body in, then probably that attracts additional cost. So then probably I will accept it. But as far as I know, from my own personal experience, is the same.
Thank you, Councillor. Obviously, Councillors, we're in the position that were Councillor Baxter able to accept the amendment straight away, we could have gone straight to a vote. But because of the complications that have arisen, I intend to go to debate and then give the Councillor Baxter an opportunity to either accept the amendment or reject it. And then we'll go to a vote. I have Councillor Stokes. Point of order, is it Councillor Cleaver?
No, Chairman, I wish to move a motion without notice under section 13.6D of the Rules of Procedure to refer this amendment to the Cabinet meeting.
Councillor Cleaver, could you stand, please, when you are addressing the Chairman? Thank you.
Apologies, Chief Executive. I wish to move a motion without notice under section 13.6D of the Rules of Procedure to refer this amendment to the Cabinet meeting on the 11th of February, where Cabinet can receive a properly written officer report so we can make an informed decision on that. I suggest then that that one set of fees is removed from the table on which we consider for the rest of the debate, if that's acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are you seconded, Councillor Dilks?
Happy to, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Doesn't seem it is not the way to do business to bring an amendment like this when there's been plenty of opportunity previously to debate this and or to bring up it may be a very valid issue, but it should be properly considered before a decision is taken. It is unfair to ask the leader or anybody else to make that decision now without knowing the whole facts. So I would like a report to come to Cabinet and for Cabinet to then decide on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. In the light of that, I'm going to take a vote on Councillor Cleaver's proposition. I will be doing this by show of hands. So, if you agree with Councillor Cleaver's motion, could you please raise your hands now, please? Against? And any abstentions? That is carried, sensible way forward, so that will be carried forward to the Cabinet. Councillor Knight, I understand you have a second amendment you wish to propose?
Thank you. The second amendment is very different to the first, and this is not about green bins, you'll be pleased to hear. As we all know, there has been an explosion in the number of people setting up small businesses, selling things from home and selling homemade goods at markets, festivals and on the street. One particular area of growth has been food trucks, and on any given weekend, some excellent businesses like Chapel House Pizza set up their trucks in villages around our district, selling street food and other produce. It is a type of entrepreneurial spirit that surely everyone in this chamber wants to support and promote. I therefore refer members to page 44 in your pack, section 7 on street trading. And I will keep talking while that comes up on the screen. Setting up as a mobile trader includes an annual consent fee proposed to be £347. My original thought was to reduce this to remove a barrier to market entry, but on making inquiries I discovered that SKDC only issued 2 mobile trader consents in the last year, both food trucks. So think of all the vehicles you see almost every day selling on the public highway, only 2 have a mobile trader consent licence. Discovering this means my original proposal has gone from being not just about removing a barrier to market entry, but to ensuring businesses get the proper consent to do what they do. So my amendment seeks to rectify this as follows. Adding a new fee for mobile trader consent for the first 12 months of £1 and adding a new fee for mobile trader consent for the next renewal of consent for businesses registered as of tomorrow of £1. The second part of this is to send the message to the 2 businesses with consent that SKDC will not punish you for doing what others should have done. Taken together, these proposals have a negligible effect on council finances, so largely fall outside the scope of a major change, but I nevertheless consulted the Chief Finance Officer ahead of this meeting. This is not an amendment that will have a material effect on many businesses. Indeed, only 2 small businesses benefit from it, but it does give SKDC an opportunity to get the many businesses that we can all see are not properly registered for mobile trader consent properly registered at no prohibitive cost to them. Again, I hope the leader will simply accept this amendment to the fee schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder for your amendment proposal? Yeah, Councillor Lane, thank you. Do you want to think about it or answer that one, Councillor?
No, I can answer this one. These sets of fees and charges, that particular charge, I don't think has changed very much in recent years, let alone months. We have a process to scrutinise fees and charges, which you've been involved in, which all the finance and everybody who's received this pack a week ago has had an opportunity to bring. So I don't understand. I love surprises usually, but this is an unnecessary surprise, and you say it only affects 2 businesses. While I'm sorry for those 2 businesses if they're missing out on a reduction in fee, I'm also interested in the businesses that you appear to be claiming are operating without the relevant consents, and certainly I'll take that up with the Cabinet member responsible for licensing. But no, I don't I'm not going to accept it because I don't feel that I have enough information about it. I would have liked to have the opportunity to consult the Cabinet member, the licensing officers, the 151 officer, and so on. So just basically on the principle of this is a surprise, which could have easily been avoided, I'm not going to accept the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So the Council has rejected the amendment, so we are now in a debate scenario, and I have Councillor Sawyer and Councillor Gill, but it's about this one particular amendment only. Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought I'd get my green light on early. My point is about car parking. I'm happy to raise that a little later on.
No, we are just discussing the amendment put forward by Councillor Knight at present, Councillor.
I know. I'm just explaining why my light is on.
Oh, I apologise, Councillor. I was talking to the Chief Exec at the time. Thank you.
At an early stage, there is a point I'd like to make about car parking, and I'll do so, if I may, when that arises.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly.
Did you want Councillor?
You're absolutely correct, Councillor Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, so thank you, Councillor Knight, for the work that you've done on these two amendments. It's a fair comment that they came in late and that there's a process. You'll just have to take my word on it that there's a lot larger list of amendments that we suggested should go through the scrutiny process. These were the two that we thought were quite small. I would say that Councillor Cleaver's approach there of referring it to a more detailed report rather than rejecting it is the correct way of doing it here, because I think that these both hit a certain bar with our group, although they did come in late and a lot of work was done because these are complicated issues. I think Councillor Cleaver hit the right tone there, that perhaps there isn't the data in here, and we didn't feel that we had the data either, but we thought that they were sufficiently far along and sufficiently small in terms of a budgetary impact and sufficiently important that they could be considered to bring them today. Now, I know that obviously in years gone by we were peppered with lots of changes on when we discussed fees and charges by the previous opposition in years gone by, and we've changed that process to avoid that. But I do think Councillor Cleaver's approach of saying, that's interesting, let's send it to a report and bring it to Cabinet, I think that's the correct with these two. And all of the other changes that our group came up with are going to go to scrutiny, not here today. Thank you.
Before I pass to Councillor Kelly was next, can I invite would you like to do a similar motion on this one, Councillor Cleaver, or not at this moment?
I would like to speak to it, though.
Sorry?
I would like to speak to the amendment.
You're going to speak. Oh, so what we've got then is you next, Councillor Kelly.
Chairman, I just wanted to ask, the fee, does that include the fact that these food trucks are vetted by our environmental health people before they go out, and we are incurring a cost, and this is why we need to charge for the services that people are receiving? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. My comment's quite similar to Councillor Kelly's. It's just it strikes me that this could be potentially a really significant impact on our resources, actually. Because if what we're saying is that we are looking at, we've got two that we're aware of this year, but that there are numerous out and about all over the district, that could be quite some enforcement task following up on those. So I would support Councillor Baxter's comment on this, that this really does need much more thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you say you want to speak, Councillor Cleaver, or not, or where are we at with that?
Yes, thank you. The idea of market trading, of trading on our streets in a way that is not green, is something dear to my heart. I would love to have every market stall powered by green energy and not by internal combustion engines running fossil fuels to power them. So I would suggest, I don't want to put an amendment in at this point to complicate matters, I would be quite happy if any mobile trader that's plugged into the mains in the new sockets that we're going to be putting in on the Market Square in Grantham, If they're only powered through electricity and they don't have their engines running, I'm happy for them to pay £1. If they don't, I think they should pay this current charge. Thank you.
Councillor Edmund.
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I'll comment on this, and it's the same old scenario of young drivers in cars, the penalty for not having the insurance was very minor, so people drove around not having the right cover. Now, the problem you've got here, you've got all these street vendors who aren't prepared to pay the £400 or £374. But Councillor's night idea is everyone will register at £1, then you know who's out there doing what, and then we can then introduce. I take on board that there'll be a cost implication, but at the moment you're only getting in over £700 a year, where I can think of about 20 mobile vendors in Grantham. So we're missing a fortune here, but at least at £1 people will sign up, and then we can monitor who is actually out there trading. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. Are we not sending out the wrong message if we follow this? You know, we've got two vendors that are abiding by the rules. We've got two vendors that are abiding by the rules, and we're saying to all those that aren't abiding by the rules, you can have it for £1 if you come honest with us. I'm a bit concerned that we've got councillors out here that know of these traders that aren't abiding by the rules and haven't reported them. Surely the thing should be to report any traders that aren't abiding by the rules, and then we can follow it up.
Thank you, Councillor. I've got Councillor Lane who seconded this particular amendment, then Councillor Knowles, and then I am going to go to a vote on this amendment. So, Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to speak to the points raised by Councillor Kelly and Councillor Morgan, my understanding of this is that there is a separate environmental health charge, which I also understand all of our traders have paid. This is about the pitch charges around where they are trading rather than the environmental health checks on them serving food to members of the public. So it's a separate charge, and this doesn't cover that, is my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And finally, Councillor Knowles.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Really, just to try and sort the matter out, there's been a proposal, there was a second, and then a move almost to refer it back to, as we did the last part of it, and now we've had a move that says we reject it now. I cannot see the objection at all to us rejecting as it stands, but asking us as a council to refer it to a scrutiny committee so that the various bits and pieces within the can be considered. It does seem that we are offering somebody, or a group of people perhaps, a cheap way of undercutting some of our existing traders, and that doesn't seem quite right. But having said that, I don't want to make a judgment on whether it's right or wrong to give them a cheap do or make them go on to or reduce maybe the fee for those who are following it correctly at the moment. But one way or another, I think we ought to be considering it at a scrutiny meeting so that we can then look at it in a considered matter when it comes to another meeting, should that be the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Following the business of the Council today, what I want to do now is go and vote on this amendment, but you've heard Councillor Knowles speak, and I can't imagine that this will not be taken to the relevant committee and discussed. So, we are voting on Councillor Baxter.
I believe it's my ability to sum up on the amendment.
You believe absolutely correctly, Councillor Baxter. I will ask you... Oh, not on the amendment. No, we're voting on the amendment, Councillor Baxter. Absolutely. Sorry? You can sum up on the amendment, Councillor Baxter.
Just to say that I've seen mobile... I think if ice cream vans count as mobile traders, and I think they do, then I have actually reported mobile traders, and I've learned a bit about the process in doing so, and found out that the particular ice cream van that I was interested in is registered in Peterborough, but does not have a licence to hawk in South Kesteven. Don't know if I've driven him out of town yet, but certainly I hope he's more aware of the rules. And thank you, Councillor Knight, for making me more aware and interested in the rules, and all of us. I agree that it should go to scrutiny. Maybe this time next year, having had a proper due process, we can consider that in more detail once we've fined and chased out of town all these other traders that are bothering Councillor Leadenham and others. So with that, I'd be happy to go to the vote. Thanks.
We do have to vote on the amendment. I'm going to do this by show of hands, ladies and gentlemen. So the amendment which is on the board in front of you, could you put your hands up if you are in favour of this amendment? We need a while to count. And against? Thank you. And abstentions? Thank you. The amendment falls. We now go to the substantive motion, unless there are further amendments, which I will again ask Councillor Baxter to sum up on that one.
I will refer you to all the comments I made earlier on and ask you to support these proposals.
Sorry, did I miss you out, Councillor Sawyer? If I did, now is the time.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. How I vote rather depends on if we're voting on all the proposed changes to the charges and fees as a block or under the separate headings. It's unfortunate when fees have to be increased in many cases, and I have to admit in most of these it's not unreasonable, but I do have concerns about the parking charges. I feel, after much consideration, those in Grantham and Stamford should be brought into line, and I'm unhappy with the differential. I would therefore welcome the opportunity to vote on parking charges separately. If not, I will have to vote against the whole of the fees and charges if they are taken as a block.
Councillor Baxter.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Sawyer. We are not proposing to change the car parking charges at all. New car parking charges came after 20th of January, after lengthy discussions at various meetings. Poor Councillor Cleaver has hardly any hair left after all that he's pulled out in the process, and I'm grateful for the work he and others have done. It has all been to scrutiny, the parking charges, and also it will come back later this year, hopefully in June, when we have seen what has happened in relation to the changes in charges that we have done. We are talking about relatively modest changes in fees that have happened and already are in place, less than the price of a cup of coffee. So for that reason I urge all colleagues, including you, Max, to vote for these proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We are now going to vote on the substantive motion, and this is where the fun begins, Councillors. We're going to use the voting buttons. You have 30 seconds when I say go to log your vote for or against the proposals. The buttons are in front of you, and they should be very obvious: yes, no, and abstain. I've got a statement that says, can you wait until it's on the screen? Are we good to go? Yep. Right, could you push your buttons now, please? Done that. Push your buttons now, please, if you haven't. The excitement is palpable, but stay with us. The votes on the screen: 39 for, 6 abstentions and 8 against. The motion is carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. now passing on to agenda item 7, the localised council tax support scheme. And again, I think the report seeks the approval of the localised council tax support scheme for 25-26 based on the same criteria as the existing scheme. The report has previously been considered and recommended by Finance and Economic Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the 26th of November 2024 and Cabinet on the 16th of January 2025. I think this one's over to you again, Councillor Baxter. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The report provides an update regarding the introduction of... Oh, sorry, I've missed my third paragraph. This is a no-change scheme. We are planning to do this year pretty much what we did last year. However, the report provides an update regarding the introduction of a second home premium from the 1st of April 2025. Regulations were laid before Parliament in October, I'm sure you're all aware, about council tax premiums on the second homes. This came into force in November, and the exceptions are detailed in paragraph 2.43, which I'm sure you have all read. In November 24, a letter and exception application form was issued to the 359 owners of second homes. Of the 359 issued, 119 have responded, and of those 119, 100 were advised 100 respondents advised which exception they believed their property should be applied to, with the other 19 providing no details. Officers are currently reviewing the responses. If all 100 are awarded the exception, 251 will have the premium applied to the council tax account as part of the annual billing process in March 2025, increasing council tax annual liability by £520,000 per annum. If this was paid in full, South Kesteven's share of this would be £46,000, which is why we're doing it. We want the £46,000, and also we want to encourage people to use the homes that they own rather than letting them sit idle. The Council Tax Support Scheme has been discussed many times and at length at the Finance Overview Scrutiny Committee, so I recommend it to you in the form that it is in front of you, a no-change scheme. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Is that you, Councillor Denniston? So, have your button pressed. Now, pressing the... Yep. Make sure you press the wrong button. Who is seconding this motion, please? That is Councillor Harrison. Right, we will now go to debate, if there is any. In that case, we're going to go straight to the vote. So, the motion is as it stands. We will again be voting on the buttons. Could you wait till it comes on the screen? And then you have 30 seconds to vote accordingly. It's getting so exciting. 46 for, 6 abstentions, 1 against, total 53 voted. The motion passes. The concentration is palpable, colleagues. I'm loving it. We are now going to agenda item 8, Pay Policy Statement. This report seeks approval for the Pay Policy Statement for 25-26. The report was recommended by the Employment Committee meeting held on the 13th of November 2024. And again, Councillor Baxter, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you also to the people who prepared, mainly Richard and his team, the motions that have already been through and been carried. It's a lot of work, I know. And thank you to Sam and Fran who've put this together. And thank you also to Anna's committee that has discussed this earlier, pay policy. It is not controversial, in my opinion. It's a requirement of a Localism Act that we produce an annual pay policy statement, which must be approved by full council, and published on our website. There are no fundamental changes since the last statement. It's a statement of facts and meets the statutory requirements placed upon us. The key changes include the updating of posts included under the definition of offices covered by the pay policy statement and changes in the statutory national minimum wage and national living wage rates. The pay policy statement includes information relating to the Council's policy for the remuneration of its chief officers and also its lowest paid employees and the relationship between the two. In addition, it provides details of chief officers' pay and sets out its policy for determining pay, including that of apprentices, of which we have quite a few. The pay policy statement also includes the Council's policy on allowances, pension schemes, termination payments and re-engagement of employees, and so on. It's been through employment already. I recommend you vote for this without much fuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kelly, are you seconding this, and do you want to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't need to speak, but I will accept seconding this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shorrock, do you want to join the debate?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In terms of the pay policy statement, at this moment of time, the pay policy statement is simply that. There are a number of things that I think we've raised in the past around this. So one of the things that we've got to look at is gender reporting, and I know that happens at a slightly different time. But one of the things which I think it would be useful to look at is what is the purpose of this pay policy statement. What are we trying to do in terms of interrogating the differentials between high pay and low pay, and can we integrate in any issues around gender pay gap on that? And I know it appears in a separate report. I know we have to publish this as a pay policy statement, but I think what we need to be able to show at some point is what work we're doing around that, rather than just producing this year on year as well. Thank you.
No one else is down to speak, so we have... Oh, Councillor Baxter, you want to sum up or answer that question?
If people are happy for me to go to summing up, yes, the most recent employment committee, we did discuss the gender pay gap. I'm not going to get the words right, but women are paid more than men in this authority. Is that correct? Yes. Yes. Very slightly. I know it sounds unfair, but so we did at employment committee. We were presented with the details of the median and the high, low, and the seniors and so on. We have a lot of women, and this is no joke. We have a lot of women in senior positions in this authority, and that's definitely a good thing. I think it's better now that we've got all these women at the top than because it's better than when the place was run by men and men alone.
Yeah. Thank you, councillors. I think we're deviating a little from the point. Karen wants to come in on the conversation. Karen. Have you finished, councillor?
To finish summing up, please vote for this without a fuss. Thank you.
Karen.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify, the pay policy statement is a statutory document that we do need to do once a year. That's why it's presented here to Council at this time. At the meeting, as Councillor Baxter referred to, that the medium gender pay gap for the 31st of March 2024 is 0.888. So that is what Councillor Baxter is referring to, and it was fully debated at the last employment committee under the chairmanship of Councillor Kelly. It is a public document, and you're able to refer to it then. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. A timely and very informative intervention. We are now voting on this motion, councillors. Again, can you wait till it comes up on the board and then press the appropriate button? Thank you, councillors. The results are on the screen. I'm not going to read them out to you. You can all read, and you all seem to be starting to have a little bit of fun. I don't know where you thought that was going to come from. We are now going, the motion is passed, and we are now going to move to agenda item 9, proposed amendments to the Constitution. Council is asked to consider approving amendments to the Constitution recommended by the Governance and Audit Committee on the 22nd of January 2025. This is over to you, Councillor Knowles.
Yes, thank you, Chair. There are 3 constitutional changes and they are separate. They are different in dealing with different parts of the Constitution. So may I suggest that we take them individually and vote on them in turn rather than try and take them all together?
Absolutely, Councillor.
Thank you very much. Well, the first one is to do with the overview and scrutiny procedure rules. At the moment, the rules say that any member of an overview and scrutiny committee or any 5 members of the council will be entitled to give notice to the chief executive that they wish an item relevant to the functions of that overview and scrutiny committee to be included on the agenda for the next available meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. This as occasioned on at times, it's coming at the next one in the middle of the work programme that has already been agreed. And although the Chair does have some discretion in how he places it, it is putting stuff on before it has properly been considered by other bodies, for instance the Cabinet, for instance officers, for instance other members or whatever. And this change in constitutional change is to make sure that when items are brought in under these circumstances, the circumstances will still remain the same. 1 member or 5 members of the wider cabinet committee, the wider council, why we have some information about those things before we start to talk about them. These are referred to under 4.3 on page 122, that anybody then would research the background information, consult relevant officers, consult the relevant cabinet members and consult the chairman of the committee before they are accepted as part of the agenda. Now this will mean that we are more informed and more able to discuss with some authority items that are brought up under this rule, where at the moment things come as a surprise and information isn't always available when we want it. This was taken at the governance audit meeting of last week and was proposed and seconded, and it was agreed unanimously that this would be an appropriate way to go, and I put it before you and ask for your support. Thank you.
Does the councillor have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Harrison. If there's no discussion, we'll go straight to the vote on that. Again, on your buttons, ladies and gentlemen, vote when it comes up on the screen. That is passed, thank you. And Councillor Knowles, do you want to go ahead with the second proposal?
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, excuse me, Councillor. Councillor Manterfield?
Sorry to interrupt, just a bit of point of order. Could you read the results out for those that are watching at home? I'm not sure they'll get a full view of the screen.
I will gladly do that, Councillor. I was just getting sick of the sound of my own voice, if I'm honest, but I will gladly give the results out verbally. Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. The second item is a very simple change in the Constitution. At the moment, when we have a budget debate, we vote on the budget on a recorded vote. That is not the case at the moment with the local plan. It is a suggestion of this constitutional change that the local plan similarly is now dictated by Constitution to be a recorded vote. That's it. Again, I should say that this was presented to the Government and Audit Committee and was agreed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm assuming that's also seconded by Councillor Harrison. Yeah. Councillor Lever? Yeah. So we'll go to the vote on the buttons again, ladies and gentlemen. Vote when it comes up on the screen. (54), 3 abstentions, no one against, a total of 53 people. That amendment also passes. Back to you, Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I hope...
Is that a point of order, Councillor Turner? Your microphone is on.
I don't know how to express the question. There seems to be a differential in the amount of people voting each time. Sometimes it's 54 and sometimes it's 53. Could you explain that, please, Graham?
I'll ask Graham to answer that one.
Chairman, on that point, that one of the councillors was absent from the room. That's why we're running with 54 today, but one councillor was absent. That's why there was a total of 53.
Thanks very much for your explanation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knowles.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The third item is, I hope, equally non-controversial and was agreed by the Governance Committee. This is to do with lettings of land and property on short and long-term requirements. At the moment, the scheme requires anything over £100,000 to be referred back, so it goes to Cabinet. And this is operationally difficult, and now it's out of date operationally. For instance, a scheme of in excess of 7 years with a cap of £100,000, if that 7 years is based on £15,000 per year, a total take just over 100,000, it would have to go to the Cabinet. The proposal is that the £100,000 be removed. I'll read it out. Any lease agreement or letting which total over the period exceeds £100,000, it now must be supported by an independent valuation and undertaken in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Property. This is to preserve and provide a safeguard so that nothing gets through without proper checks and balances. Once again, I ask for support. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Ellis. We're now going to vote to get on the screens, ladies and gentlemen. (52 again, 52 for, 1 abstention, 1 against, 54 total. I don't think anyone has a toilet. Apologies to you, Councillor Morgan. I actually missed your request to speak. Now we have had the vote, can I just ask you to speak to the relevant people for any issues you wanted to raise? We are now, ladies and gentlemen, going to have a break of, I'd like to say 10 minutes, but it's probably going to be 15. Because all we have left on today's agenda will be open questions and the motion that's been put forward by Councillor Gill. So a 10 to 15 minute break, but can we start absolutely at 3:30, please, ladies and gentlemen? The request, and I'm not going to name and shame him, James, but if you really feel the need to take your jackets off, gentlemen, please do. Don't feel uncomfortable, but actually I think it's got a bit chilly now, so you're probably going to be okay. We now begin the members' open question session. Members may ask Thank you. Members may ask one question only with no preamble or supplementary, which may be addressed to one of the following: the Leader, Cabinet members, the Chair and Vice Chairman of Overview and Scrutiny Committees and Opposition Group Leader. The session may last up to 45 minutes. Please join the queue to speak by pressing the button on your microphone. I'll call members out in the order in which they appear on my list. I expect you to put your question straight away. If you do not, I will direct you to move to your question. If after being instructed you do not move straight to your question, your microphone will be turned off and I will move to the next person in the queue. There's no right to reply, the making of statements or enter into debate. Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. Question for Councillor Baxter, if I may. Is £40,000 for 2 brown signs, I repeat 2, not 20 or 200 for Stanford, the best possible use we can make of UK SPF money, which, although it comes from central government, is nevertheless provided by taxpayers?
Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. £40,000 does sound like a lot of money for 2 brown signs. However, we have to work, if we want the signs, we have to work alongside national highways, and national highways, as we know from the A1 littering debate, have their rules. I am sure that officers would explore the opportunities of tying in with other National Highways works when looking at these works. However, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund is time limited. The debate about the brown signs on the A1 did take place between elected councillors at the UK Shared Prosperity Fund meeting, where they discussed all the different UK Shared Prosperity Fund measures, and those councillors decided that it was something that is needed. It's very difficult to work out the impact or the value of putting those signs on the road. If you drive from London up to Newcastle and back every day, and you see signs for virtually every other town, eventually you get curious enough to think, oh right, what is it about this historic town? There's also a limit as to how much you can put on the brown sign. So we know that Stamford is a beautiful town. It's the UK's first conservation area, and it's got at least four, the best independent shopping street in Stamford. My colleague has just reminded, the best independent shopping street in Stamford. Genuine error. Best independent shopping street in the UK. Fantastic art centre with fantastic pantomimes and so on. Yeah, well worth advertising. And if we get £40,000 worth of people coming and spending their money in the excellent galleries and so on, then it will have been worth it. However, I agree with you, national highways do seem to be pulling a number on this kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. I have a question for Councillor Paul Stokes, our Cabinet member, Deputy now, congratulations. There's been a significant effort to improve services and the infrastructure of Dysart Park. Thanks to everyone concerned, it's been a real collaborative effort. Can you please provide an update on the works and especially how we're now dealing with the flooded area in the park? Thank you.
Councillor Stokes.
Thank you. So there has been significant drainage work to be undertaken. Phase 1 is now complete, and the testing, and particularly during the recent floods, has shown that that work has been very successful. Phase 2 is currently underway and will be completed within the next couple of weeks, and we are very confident that that will get rid of much of the drainage and drainage problems that were existing previously. Following on from that, there will be significant works going on in the park, and in conjunction with funding from UK SPF and Grantham Rotary Club, there will be a significant amount of play equipment installed in the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Councillor Moran as Cabinet Member for Housing. It's been fantastic to hear about all of the new build projects coming across the line with you in post, so thank you so much for your enthusiasm and your hard work. Would you please meet with me to discuss how and whether we can start to bring new housing, social housing across the line in Bourne, especially now that we have an increased HRA budget coming soon?
Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Lane. I nearly blushed. If it had been anything to do with me and not 100% the team, I'd take it, but I will pass it on to where it belongs. If you want more social housing in Bourne, I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. As you say, we have a budget and we're happy to spend it. So I'll touch base with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bishnar Singh.
You hit the jackpot, Councillor Virginia Moran. My question is to you. Please, could you update us all with how many more council houses we have acquired to replenish our depleted housing stock, please?
Councillor Moran.
Thank you, Chair. I actually thought this was going to be Councillor Lane's question. I knew there was a question on numbers coming from somewhere. So, short answer is 98. Long answer is 20 new units at Swinegate. They're on track. Handover will be July 25. Wellington Way at Deeping is 11 units. We're just about to go to planning with that. Just waiting for one more report. Sorry.
That seems to have done it, Councillor. Thank you.
Yeah, Gorse Rise, we've got 6 homes there. Corby Glen, we've committed to buy 36. We've already taken early delivery of 4. I think we're expecting some more in March. We bought 12 one-bedroom apartments at St Peter's House, which is just literally on the square in Grantham. We're just getting the first tenants moved in there. The last 5 properties from the LAF money, we bought 29 altogether, and we just bought the last 5. And we also have 6 properties that we've purchased back from tenants who bought them under right to buy, who've offered them back to us, and we're still on the lookout for a bungalow and a 6-bed property. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stooke.
Thank you. This is for Councillor Cleaver. I presume I'm asking the right person here, so if I'm not, please accept my apologies. In light with all the incidents that have happened on the A1 over the last couple of months, obviously with all the severe accidents, and also one exactly this morning in town on London Road, as Councillor Cleaver, you're on the Committee of Health Scrutiny. I know this might not be the right place to ask, but I feel I need to ask it. Will the look at Grantham Hospital and the A&E be put back on the agenda? Because, as we all know, time matters over lives, and with the severity of the accidents, I think it's very important that we re-look at this again going forward.
Councillor Cleaver.
Yes, thank you for your question. I think it's quite an apposite question as we're meeting in Grantham today, and I know it's always a concern. My brief answer to you is it should never be off the agenda to review the need to have A&E services at Grantham Hospital upgraded. It should be under constant review. I sit on the Health Scrutiny Committee, as you say, and we're very conscious of the fact we have a rising population. The population is rising 1% a year. On top of that, you have an ageing population, so health services need to be reviewed thoroughly to make sure the right services are in place in the right place. One of the things that's happening, as many councillors will know, after much lobbying, the ICB, NHS Lincolnshire, is doing a full stakeholder review and public engagement with Stamford residents and Stamford health providers about health services in Stamford. And they're going to be very strongly pressurised to do one for every town across the county. And I hope that that will come to Grantham in time, and when that happens, there will again be a full review of urgent treatment and A&E services in Grantham. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Trollope-Ballou.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. This is a question to the leader.
As he knows, early this month, one of the parishes that Councillor Smith and I represent was flooded, and whereas the year before about 40 properties, this time it's probably about 20. And I was wondering if he could use his influence to contact the leader of Lincolnshire County Council to push them forward to get the drains, get a camera down the drains to see if there are any problems. I would also ask that he thanks SKDC officers, particularly those street cleaners and the skits, and those that provided the sandbags, because they did an excellent job. Plus Graham Watts, the monitoring officer, and there was one more person, I can't remember his name, but they did keep us informed, and I'd like to particularly express my thanks to the officers for doing that and making sure that the residents of Gretford at least saw representation from SKDC. Thank you.
Thank you for your considered question, Councillor. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you very much for the question. It's awful that Gretford suffered floods again this year, almost a year to the day after the Storm Henk floods last year. I'm happy to join you, and I'm sure the rest of the council, in thanking all the people involved, the people that you mentioned, all the staff that were in any way involved in the SK response to the floods. I think I should pay particular note to Phil Swinton and his team. I know that Phil was out for something like 16 hours from 2 o'clock in the morning till last thing at night, coordinating the SK response to the floods across the district, and many other people were involved. And as Councillor Baker mentioned earlier on, our street scene team and our team generally is looking for ways to help. Last year, SK were kind of first on the ball, and we were there again this year. I think in Gretford, one of the things that changed from year to year is that Gretford were more ready. They, having been hit once, they were more ready. But I attended with you the Gretford Parish Council meeting, which was again a busy meeting, and I was really impressed and grateful to the parish team that put together the presentation about where the floods came from. And as you know, he began by saying there is no magic bullet. Much as we would like to be able to say it's their fault or his fault or wherever, it's a combination of factors. The day after that parish council meeting, I organised a Teams meeting with the gentleman that gave the report, with Matthew Harrison from the County Council, where we went through that presentation again and outlined the various issues, including the what happens at Gretford Hall and what happens in the Gretford Cut. And the most interesting thing possibly is that Gretford's early warning is in Burton Coggles. We are all connected by the same scheme. When Burton Coggles hits the top, that's 12 hours notice to Gretford to get ready. But on the specific point of the CCTV camera, as the County Councillor for the ward, I have taken this issue to Matthew Harrison and also to the Flood and Water Environment Committee at County, which I sit on, and press these points again. I'm hopeful that CCTV survey will be undertaken in the very near future, hopefully before the next heavy rain. So I concur with the sentiment of your question entirely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. There being no more requests for questions, Councillor Gill, we're going to pass to your motion unless you have a question. Councillor Gill? A question. Councillor Gill.
Thank you. Question to Councillor Cleaver. As I'm sure you're aware, yesterday was Lunar New Year, sometimes called Chinese New Year. There were many schools and community groups across our district that marked the start of Lunar New Year, celebrating the rich diversity and reminding us of how international our district is. I'm sure you'll join me in saying 新年快乐 to all, or Happy New Year to all of those marking Lunar New Year this year. And as you're no doubt aware, this is the year of the snake. I wonder whether you'll join me in the traditional Mandarin idiom, 事物正逢，万事如意, which, as I'm sure you're aware, means as the snake dances towards the springtime, may you dance towards a happier life. Good luck in minuting that one, James.
He'd done it before you sat down, Councillor. I forgot who the question was to, but whoever it was, could you stand up and answer it, please?
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm not sure what the question was. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to answer, but yes, of course, I am happy, and I'm sure all councillors are. This is a corporate body, it's not just the leadership. In wishing everyone who is celebrating their own form of New Year a very happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you very much. This is a question really to the council at large, to members, to officers. I'm often asked, when will the Beastly bypass, that's the one from the A1 to the A52, be completed? Anyone know? It's only 3 years late. Yes, the Relief Road bypass thing.
The Chief Exec will answer that, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. It's not one that I will answer, but I would suggest that you put that towards the County Council councillor for that area. Thank you. It's not a District Council matter.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. I have a point of information because I asked the very question of Richard Davies only a week or so ago. Basically, what he said is that the county is already and raring to go. They are waiting for the Railway Authority, and that's as long as a piece of string.
Thank you, Councillor. I get the feeling we're now searching for questions, which is not exactly what we need to do, so I'm going to pass on to agenda item 11, which is a motion from Councillor Gill. I'll ask him to submit the motion, and obviously we'll discuss it. Councillor Gill, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I stand before you today to present a motion in response to deeply troubling behaviour that we have witnessed over the past year from certain individuals in this council. This conduct does not only undermine the integrity of this council, but has eroded public trust. First, I want to express my sincere gratitude to officers, solicitors, the police, who have diligently handled complaints with professionalism and dedication. I also want to extend my appreciation to the cross-party members of the Standards Committee hearing panel, chaired with great integrity by Councillor Pam Bird, and their careful deliberations over 5 Code of Conduct hearings which resulted in findings against 2 councillors who were found to have violated the Code of Conduct on 9 separate occasions, with breaches including treating others with disrespect, failing to uphold confidentiality, and multiple instances of bringing this council into disrepute, which shames us all. When Councillor Dilks introduced the Standards Committee, it was welcomed cross-party as a measure to uphold accountability across this chamber. However, I doubt he ever anticipated that it would one day have had to address such serious and distressing findings, now publicly documented, and I'm not going to go through the details of what's in there, that's all in the public domain. This is not just an issue of individual misconduct. It is a profound failure of leadership. The motion before us was first introduced in response to numerous complaints regarding the actions of the current leader of this council, and it is worth noting that he remains the only other individual previously found guilty of bringing the council into disrepute at a formal hearing. And with that in mind, there is, I believe, from my seconder, an amendment. I'll pass to Matthew Bailey.
Have you finished presenting your motion, Councillor Chair? So we have an amendment. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chairman. I am the newest member of this council.
I do apologise. Do we have to second your seconding and proposing amendment? Sorry to interrupt, Councillor. Off you go.
Thank you, Chairman. I am the newest member of this council. I wasn't around when this was originally signed. I wholeheartedly agree with this motion before us today and happen to second it. This motion reaffirms the principles of the LGA's Debate Not Hate, which was originally signed by the leader, Councillor Baxter. However, I now wish to move an amendment replacing the last sentence of the motion to read as follows, and I assume it will appear in a second, but I'll read it anyway. Since the election of the leader of the council in early 2024, there has been a significant increase in the number of code of conduct complaints, many of which have been deemed so serious to merit external investigation and hearings. With bullying, intimidation and widespread abuse at unprecedented levels in South Kesteven District Council. The leader of the council has failed to uphold the principles of the LGA Debate Not Hate campaign, which he signed as a group leader in 2022. For these reasons, this motion proposes the removal of the leader of South Kesteven District Council until such time as a new leader can be elected by full council. The reputation of this council has been damaged all at the helm of Councillor Baxter. The time to act is now. Let's turn the page, start afresh, a new beginning for us all. Thank you.
Thank you for the amendment, Councillor, and obviously we now need to debate that amendment. You need a seconder. I need a seconder for the amendment. I need a seconder for his amendment first. Councillor Whittington. Yeah, now, are you... Yeah, okay, yep. Please accept the amendment and then we'll go to debate.
On the amendment. So I'm not going to dwell on the behaviour that has been so well documented, the incidents that have caused so much harm and division in this council.
Point of order, Councillor Sharrock.
Isn't the principle that if the mover of the motion accepts the amendment, then the whole of the amendment goes into the substantive? We don't have to debate the amendment, we just debate the substantive.
That's precisely where I was going, Councillor Sharrock, I think.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know if Councillor Jewell has indicated that he wants to accept the amendment. I think he's speaking on the amendment at this stage.
Carry on, Councillor.
Police investigations, solicitors, security concerns, individuals in tears, even...
Councillor Baxter.
I think you've moved on too soon from Councillor Sharrock's amendment. If the amendment has been accepted by the mover of the motion, then there's no debate on the amendment. The amendment is just becomes part of the substantive, and we can move on. We don't need to listen to more of the same.
I take that point. I'm just going to take some advice on it.
Again, sorry, I don't know if Councillor Jewell has indicated that he's accepting the amendment. I think he's speaking on the amendments at the moment. So, as part of his speech, presumably he will tell the council whether he's willing to accept the amendment or not.
Councillor Jewell. Can you please tell us where you think you are and what you're speaking on at the present moment in time? I hope what you're doing is you've accepted the amendment, so therefore this should be...
I'm explaining why I'm accepting the amendment, and then I'll give an opinion on the amendment.
And again, I'm going to rule on that, Councillor Jewell. You really don't need to explain why you're accepting the amendment. You put forward a motion that was immediately amended. There is now a substantive motion that includes the amendment. So what, in effect, you're doing is moving the conversation, I believe, into another area.
The monitoring officer here.
Yeah, we're going to go on to that one. Graham, can you give us some...
Thank you, Chairman. I think if you've indicated that you're accepting the amendment, you, as the mover of the original motion, will have the opportunity as a right of reply on the amendment. So in the fact that you've accepted the amendment, you'll have the ability to undertake a right of reply.
So I can speak.
Allow us a minute to discuss as to what the position is with Councillor Jewell. Councillor Morgan, I see you on your feet. Is it a point of order? Right, could you tell us the point of order, please, Councillor?
Yes, my point of order is that we are meant to be referring to an amendment. If you look at the substantive argument behind the motion before us, that's based on national survey done regarding the behaviour or treatment of all councillors nationally. This proposal before us, as treated as an amendment, is actually a direct target attack on the current leader of the council. I do not consider that an amendment. I consider that to be a new motion, and I would like our monitoring officer to make a statement, please, regarding that.
We will take some advice on that. Councillor, could you sit down for 2 minutes while we determine whether or not what Councillor Morgan is saying has substantive reasoning behind it? Where are we with this, Colin?
Thank you, Chairman. I think the amendment does relate to the motion. In terms of the council procedure rules, if an amendment relates to the motion that's before you, then it can be accepted as a valid amendment. And I believe there is a link to the amendment that's been proposed and the motion that's before you. So I'm content to accept it as a valid amendment, Chairman.
Thank you. In that case, I will make the ruling. Councillor Gill, I will give you 2 or 3 minutes to finish off what you were saying. We will then hopefully have a debate. If not, I am more inclined to go straight to the vote. So I will warn you of that. Point of order, Councillor Baker.
Procedure is important. I'm just reading from the Article 4 of the Council's Constitution, 4.11.6, Amendments to Motions, Section 1, and I quote, "An amendment to a motion must be relevant to the motion and will either be to refer the matter to an appropriate body or individual for consideration, to leave out words and insert or add others, to insert or add other words, as long as the effect of B and D does not negate the motion." Is this not simply a underhanded call of no confidence?
I'll take advice on that, Councillor. A minute.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, I don't... The amendment fits the category that you've just read out in terms of it adds words and is relevant to the motion before you. So I don't think it does negate the motion. That's my view, Chairman. Thank you.
As that's a ruling from the Monitor Officer, I will continue to give Councillor Gill 2 or 3 minutes to finish off. And then, as I have said and warned councillors, I'm very tempted to go straight to the vote. We'll see where we're at. Councillor Gill, would you like to finish, please?
Okay. This past year has shown us that this council is in need of healing leadership. There have been significant failures in leadership, failures that have hurt the council and the people we serve. We have seen the leadership falter at the combined authority level, where South Kesteven has been left on the side.
Can you sit down, please, Councillor? I am now getting very concerned that what you are doing is turning this into a tirade against the leader, and I do think, personally, from the chair, that it is moving against the substance of the motion, which I absolutely understand the majority of the council are going to vote in favour of. So can I ask you, please, to sum up as quickly as possible?
I'll move to the conditions upon which I'm going to accept this amendment. I want to be absolutely clear. This amended motion is not for political gain. It is about restoring the stability and integrity of this council. That is why, if this motion passes, the South Kesteven Coalition will not seek the leadership of this authority. We will not put forward a candidate for leader. It will be for the administration to put forward somebody who can bring this council together and heal this council, that everyone can work with, and address the failings in leadership, the vacuum in leadership that we've seen in the last year. I've noticed that you've overruled me there in terms of my speech, but that's upon the conditions that we will accept this amendment, that we will not be putting forward a leader. It will be up to the administration, who will not turn a blind eye to some of the worst behaviour that's ever been seen in this country, who can work with colleagues in county.
Councillor, you're grandstanding, Councillor. Can I ask you to sit down? I think I've given you enough leeway to make your point. We've all heard the relevant points of your argument, and what I intend to do now, councillors, is go straight to the vote. I would like to say at this juncture, there's a lot of words been said. Excuse me, councillor, sit down till I've finished. Thank you. There's a lot of words have been said, there's a lot of conjecture and a lot of personal feelings. I really do not think that we will benefit from discussing this in any great depth or in any great feelings of anger. I really feel like the motion has been changed beyond all measure. I am asking you to vote on it as it stands with the amendment, and then I will close the meetings. I obviously will take opinions now. Councillor Shorrock, you had your hand up. How can I help you?
Chair, I distinctly heard Councillor Gill say he'd accepted the amendment. So therefore he has accepted it into the substantive. The question now is whether you, Chair, are ruling it out because actually it varies too much from the original motion and therefore shouldn't be accepted as amendment, or whether you accept the principle that there is an amendment there, he's accepted the amendment, the whole thing goes into the substantive, we just debate the substantive.
I've been informed by the monitoring officer that the amendment can stand because it does tick all the relevant boxes. So therefore, Councillor, I feel like I am in the position of being presented with a motion that has been amended. I honestly believe that amendment has changed the original motion. I have no doubt whatsoever that the original motion would have been passed without any difficulty whatsoever. But now I'm faced with the position of having to put the substantive motion, which includes the amendment, before you all, and I would really like to do that with some immediacy. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just say, as this seems to have changed significantly and seems to be about confidence in the leader that we are voting for, can I have a recorded vote, please? Are there any others that would join me in a recorded vote so we can look at where the unity of this council lies?
Can you please stand if you want a recorded vote? Thank you. And thank you. Sit down. There is enough people for a recorded vote. Because it has been asked for, I'm now going to take the position that we are voting on this substantive motion. I do believe that Councillor Gill has had enough time to speak on it, but I will take advice on it. Graham. Right, having taken advice, I have been advised that I have to give members the opportunity to discuss the substantive motion, which has changed. So I am going to do that. If you want to speak, your names are down there. The substantive motion is up on the screen, and we will follow our procedure. Can you please put your name on my screen if you want to speak? I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. Is it a point of order, Councillor Stokes? Councillor Stokes?
I actually would like to amend the amendment back to the original motion and rule out the amendment.
Thank you, Chairman. Building on what Councillor Baker said in relation to what amendments, I'm trying to address the last point of order that was made, if that's okay, Councillor Knowles. Councillor Baker listed the amendments that can be proposed at a meeting. One of those is that it doesn't negate the original motion. What you've just proposed negates the amendment that's just been accepted and is now forming part of the substantive motion. So to remove that element negates that particular element of the motion. So you could achieve the same principle by voting against the substantive motion as opposed to voting for it.
Is it a point of order, Councillor Harrison?
Yes, says up there, bullying and intimidation. Yeah. Who was found guilty of bullying? Intimidation. It's a point of information. That's incorrect.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knowles.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I cannot see that this is a proper amendment and acceptable amendment. The original amendment was to agree to a code of practice that had been agreed and recorded. The second part of what is now called the amendment to the same agenda item, is to remove from the leadership the leader of the council. They are not associated. They are not in any way associated. One is to consider the code of conduct. The amendment, which you've declared is now been accepted, but I'm challenging whether it is or not, is a motion to remove an individual from a position that has been pointed to by this thing. And it's not the same. It's not part of the same argument. It is not part of the same original motion, and therefore is not acceptable because it is not tied to the original motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I think I would like to take a little bit of advice on that, people, so I need a couple of minutes to have a conversation.
Thank you, Chairman. I hear what the councillor is saying, but my advice is the same. In my opinion, the amendment that's been proposed and accepted as part of this substantive motion is a valid amendment to make. I appreciate the significance of what that amendment is, but my advice hasn't changed in that I believe it links to the original motion and is a valid amendment.
In the light of... You will understand, councillors, that I would be incredibly silly if I moved too far away from the advice of our officers, and I'm not going to. So, sadly, because of the way the conversations is going, we are going to be presented with a simple choice. We either vote for the amended substantive motion, or we don't. But I have also been advised that I need to give yourselves time to join in the debate, which is what I'm going to, but I am not going to let this go on indefinitely, and if I think a certain councillor is crossing threshold lines and being basically saying things they should not, I will stop them. We've got Councillor Sawyer. Go, Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. May I make an observation that any councillor is free to make 1 or 5 or 10 or 20 code of conduct complaints. Whether they have any merit and their reasons for doing so are rather different matters.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Milnes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm going to
Point of order. Yep. Sorry, Councillor Knowles, you've got a point of order?
No, I want to speak in the debate.
Oh, you're right down the bottom of the list, Councillor Knowles, I'm afraid. Councillor Counts, not for any reason other than the bottom of this list. Councillor Milne.
Thank you, yes. Well, I would like to concur as an SK independent that this is not about political advantage. And I am speaking in support of this amendment to the motion.
There is no amendment now, we have a substantive motion.
Sorry, confused, but yes, the substantive motion. I'm actually incensed. I feel shamed, and I am ashamed. And we should all feel ashamed. Whether like it or not, we should all ask why. The whole essence, the whole purpose of our role is debate and change for the betterment of our residents. Being a good councillor is more than being popular or doing the popular thing. We do need to be a beacon of exemplar behaviour. But what do we have? What have we created? We, you might ask? It is we, and we are all tainted. All of us. Not by the complaints, which have been very largely upheld, but by the way it's been handled by the leader. That is why we should be ashamed. We have created a council which has brought us into disrepute. Not just the legal high bar of bringing the council into disrepute, but in the eyes and opinions of our residents. It's unforgivable, and that is why we should be ashamed. Their taxes, their hard-earned income has been wasted because a minority of councillors have the arrogance, effrontery and audacity to believe that they are the sole arbiters of what is right. Their stance has been discredited by a nationally accepted process which they do not accept. It's unconscionable. I can't even say it, sorry, unconscionable. Their egregious attitudes are wholly unacceptable in a responsible councillor. They should be particularly ashamed. Sadly, their stance was, if not supported and encouraged by the leader of the administration, it was certainly condoned by his own inaction. He should also feel particularly ashamed. The reputation of the council, and particularly our residents, have paid a significant price for the debacle that has been created. Whatever his view in its creation, the leader has to be held accountable for the situation we find ourselves in. It is on his watch. He is culpable. He says that it's his greatest honour to serve as leader, and so it should be. He should now do the honourable thing and resign with an apology for his failure of leadership. Alternatively, you must support this amendment for a positive future to go some way to restore our reputation, our credibility and integrity as a council. We need to move on with a more positive and responsible approach with a new leader from the administration. It is in our hands now. Thank you.
Councillor Stuke.
I promised my residents I wouldn't really get too involved with this because they said to me, just do what you keep doing, Elvis. We don't need to get in messy situations. Well, I'm actually going to get involved because I'm actually going to back the leader of this council because as far as I see and from what I have read, this leader of this council gave the opportunity to the opposition and those members that were involved with all the complaints to sit down with members from this side and talk amicably as adults. I have no political gains by what I'm doing here, so please, on the opposition, don't think this is it, because it certainly isn't. You all say that we should all be ashamed. Well, maybe we should, on both sides, take accountability for our own actions. Not just one side, but both sides. Our residents are absolutely sick and tired of the bickering that this council does every seating. What they want and voters as in to do was to do the job as councillors. Get the jobs done. Now, if I really want to be in predicament here, I could ask for apology from Councillor Ben Green. But I've chosen not to ask for that today because of his detrimental comments on other matters that was put on our social medias. But I'm not going to do that because I'm better than that. But what I will say is, if this council loses our leader, I would have no other opportunity to maybe stand down as councillor in my ward. Because I think, Ashley, you have done a fantastic job. You've tried everything to resolve the issues. But I'm sorry, opposition, you refuse to allow that to happen. And for that, Ashley, I appreciate your hard work that you have done and all my colleagues on this side of the House. And if this is the last day I speak in here, then I thank all my residents as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hate is a strong word, and for a start, I would just put on record as a Conservative councillor, and contrary to what's been stated, I don't hate anybody in this room, and nor do I believe there's a collective hate from anybody within the group. Regarding the bad publicity this council has received recently due to social media, I think any reasonably minded person who is a new councillor would think twice about standing again. And looking from the outside, if anyone was considering standing, would probably think twice about doing so. If the last election was the last for this council, I would hope that it would be remembered for the right reasons and not for what's been going on over the last year. I think this is bad publicity has been partly due to lack of leadership, and when there's been ample time and opportunity to do something about it, I think the administration should consider whether it needs its time for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knowles.
Bottom of the list, thank you, Chair. I want to start by repeating what I said. I look at the motion as it stands now, as it's written down, and I look at it, and I agree with one part of it. I agree with the part that started the motion in the first place. I agree with that passionately. People have heard me at this microphone being passionate about this very thing at meetings, at this table, and I agree passionately that some of the behaviour on both sides has not been up to the standards. No, you're shaking your head. No, you're shaking your head. Some of the standards on both sides has not been up to the sort of level that I would hope and wish for from people in this chamber. But having said that, the second part of the proposal, which is now part of the substantive motion, is nothing to do with the first one. It is expressing no confidence in the leader, and that is not justified on anything that's been said so far, in any way, shape or form. He's not been responsible for any breach of code of conduct of the hearings we just had. There were hearings, 5 of them, I believe. I've not followed them closely as obviously one or two others, but 5 hearings, none of them have found any guilt on behalf of the leader in terms of breaching the code of conduct. So you cannot, on the basis of trying to insist that we all abide by a code of conduct, say that you will sack the leader on the grounds that he's broken it, because he hasn't. What he may or may not have done in the past, and may or may not have been at fault with the code of conduct in the past, is nothing to do with what's happening in this last time, in this last few weeks. The person has consistently tried to get these things sorted out without reference to hearings and so on. And so, yes, he has. I'm sorry, don't raise your head. And if there's a fault of leadership, it's a fault of leadership on both sides, on the side of the good, on this side and on that side. The leadership failure has been as strong on that side as it has on this side, with his constant refusal to talk and to consult and to discuss these things. It is absolute nonsense to put these two things together, and it's an absolute nonsense. And I trust everybody with any fair mind will agree with the first part of that, but we're going to have to vote against it, because we've got one substantive motion on two different subjects. Now, we've got to vote against the part of it says we will abide and be polite and do things properly, and I hope you find that I always have done, and I always will continue to do so. But this is a nonsensical, it doesn't add up, it's not logical, and it is a political move, and it is nothing to do with anything else except trying to take a revenge on a thorn that was in the side of the last administration when they were in power here, the last administration before the last election. And that's all it is. And it's a disgrace, and I'm very, very sad to see you bringing about this Councillor Gill, because I thought you were above things like that. Thank you.
Councillor Sharrock.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think part of the problem that we've got now is that the actual debate that we should have had was about how can we all improve our practice, right? How can we improve our practice? How can we manage what we say? How can we manage the people who might go on our social media feeds and what they say? All those kind of things. I think it's really difficult to navigate all of that, right? And it would have been really, really useful to use that as the opportunity to develop some thinking and policy around that. Unfortunately, that motion that was put forward by the Leader of the Opposition, it was never genuine. Right, it was never genuine, it was a feint. All they wanted to do was to put forward that amendment. Now, they should have some honesty and integrity by saying that if they want to put a vote of no confidence in the Leader of the Council, put it forward, right? You know, stand up for yourselves and say, we don't agree with the Leader of the Council, and here's the reason why, and we want a change in administration. Don't try and hide it behind something which would be really useful for this council to be able to debate and think about, right? That is not honest politics, okay? That is not honest politics. You want to know about all the tricks and techniques, come and talk to me. I know them all, right? I know them all, right? So there's a level of dishonesty there, right, in terms of the way that they've put that forward, and they know that there has. Now, in terms of what we've got here, it's not an either-or. Okay, we can move a procedural motion at the end of this debate to vote on that in parts. So we can split it into parts and say we're going to take a vote on each sentence, each line, each point in the whole of the substantive motion. And that will solve that problem, yeah, so that people can have the debate, agree on the things that they want to agree, and get rid of the things that they want to get rid of. Thank you.
Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Gill.
Point of order. We've heard speaker after speaker after speaker here constantly criticising the officers who have declared this a fair motion. The motion has been confirmed by the monitoring officer. Can we please stop criticising the process? The monitoring officer has confirmed this is okay. They've taken their legal advice. It's not up to us as members to criticise officers here. Thank you.
Councillor Harrison.
Thank you again, Chair. I think everybody's aware the majority of this conversation is about me, and the target isn't really Councillor Baxter. The target is me. They're trying to get at me through Councillor Baxter. Until I have a definitive answer on this, Councillor Gill, I feel I'll not be able to vote on in any form on your motion. So can you clarify for me with just one word and answer that with hate or debate? Taking into account the following: Councillor Green's recent post lying and stating myself and a select number of other councillors did not care for cancer sufferers, and Councillor Green's post mocking another councillor with a supposed joke and a laugh emoji for stepping down from Cabinet for personal reasons and grief, and Councillor Green's post mocking residents not being able to use the Deeping Leisure Centre, and certain members of your group continually using the term Rainbow Alliance, a recognised LGBTQA+ organisation, in some sort of childish attempt to get a reaction. But more important, the fact that in the recent hearing against me, Councillor Bailey, who I have invited originally to share in my surgeries at no cost to himself, stated that he risked being admonished by your group for engaging with me over a text because of, and I quote, the hatred, that was the word, the hatred between the Conservatives and myself. I can categorically say I have never expressed hatred at any time to any councillor, and have even stated that I was one of the councillors championing that the opposition receive chair and vice chair positions at the start. I was also one of the councillors that expected better from you, Councillor Dew. Sadly, you've let me down at every point. Hatred is a word that's very strong and should never be used, but you have demonstrated that you've used that. Couple that with the unprecedented number of complaints against me solely from a small portion of Conservatives, I have to ask, are those points hate or debate? And the reports of bullying and misogyny within your own party that we are hearing, is that hate or debate? If your answer is hate, then I'll be able to vote for the motion and we can move forward and stamp it out. But if it's not, you should resign. And if it's a debate, I will not be voting at all because your proposal will be at best disingenuous.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm now going to move to Councillor Dixon Warren. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a rural ward councillor, and the parishes I'm privileged to serve focus mainly on rural issues. SKDC's role in the response to flooding and the Herculean efforts to roll out purple-lidded bins featured very highly in my residents' views and comments. And I would say that their general view of this council varies from good to medium to sometimes, depending if your bin was picked up, maybe not so good. The complaints issue and the publicity that accompanied it didn't attract a huge response from my rural constituency, and that won't surprise you. The response it did attract was uniformly negative, appalled that this council was allowing such behaviour to be published on open media. And it's this view that I'm going to represent, I hope briefly, and I hope focused exclusively on the amended motion before us. Our reputation, I think, has unquestionably been damaged. And given the original notice of motion, I'd rather hope to hear a positive statement early in proceedings, A, acknowledging that it had happened, and B, providing some sort of positive suggestion about how this council might go forward to deal with it. We didn't have any such statement, unfortunately. No, we didn't. And so, given the change in motion, and rather uncharacteristically, I've decided to stick my head above the parapet, conscious that I'm now presenting a target to some, if not all of you. I think we need a reset going forward. We need a significant reset. And in my personal opinion, the amended proposition might provide the reset we need. Consequently, I will support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Stokes, are you proposing the amendment or point of order?
Yes, just one, please. I'll resist comment. I've got a lot of comments I could make about spineless and things like that, but I'll resist it. I would like to propose an amendment to the final sentence of that statement on there, whereby we get rid of "for these reasons onward," and we replace that with "the Council reaffirms the principles of the LG debate and hate campaign." I think that would be more sensible.
Do you have a seconder for that amendment?
Yeah, removing the whole motion.
Councillor Bishnow Singh, you're seconding that. Do you want to speak on it?
That will join later.
Chairman, can I just ask, on the amendment, Councillor Stokes, can you just clarify again which parts you are removing? So you've got your notice of motion in your pack, and then you've got the amendment, the substantive amendment on the screen. Can you just clarify for us the part that you are now proposing as an amendment to the substantive motion?
I'm proposing we remove the whole lot, and we go to the one sentence that says the Council reaffirms the principles of the LGA debate and hate campaign. And all go up and take a think.
Thank you, Councillor Stokes. If I can pass back to the Chairman, you'll need to ask for a seconder, Chairman.
I've got a seconder in Councillor Bishnow Singh. I just want to confirm myself that that is legal.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I believe that is an acceptable amendment to propose. It's not negating. My issue with the previous proposition was that you were effectively taking out the amendment that the mover of the original motion was accepting, and that's a direct negation of what the motion represented, in my opinion. This is a completely different amendment, and I think it's an acceptable amendment, Chairman.
So, having accepted this new amendment to the first amendment, we are now in a position to allow you to discuss this if you want, or failing that, I'm going to the vote. I've got a whole number of people down to speak. If you don't want to speak, and this is on the newest amendment, can you take your name off, please?
For absolute clarity, Chairman, just on the agenda page of your agenda pack, what is being proposed now as an amendment to the motion is that everything is removed apart from the words, "This Council reaffirms the principles of the LGA Debate Not Hate campaign." That is the amendment that we are debating now. Thank you, Chairman.
I repeat, if you still want to speak on that amended motion, can you leave your name on it, or failing that, I'm going to go to the vote. Councillor Turner, your name is down. Do you wish to speak? Sorry, Councillor. Councillor Gill, I have to ask you if you wish to accept that amendment.
So no, I think that that negates the amendment. It would be my take, and I think that it doesn't have to be this way. There was a time when leadership looked different. Councillor Cleaver, the former leader.
Thank you, Councillor. Really.
We're moving away from this, we're negating it, we're walking away from the challenges that we really face here.
Sorry? We are now in debate, Councillor. No, we've got. I'd ask Councillor Turner, then I'll come to Councillor Baker.
This might not be popular with everyone in this room, but it's a bit petty when you're having arguments over Facebook. It does bring us into disrepute with the general public, but I think the amendment, "Let's reaffirm the Debate Not Hate campaign," sums it up, so I'd like to speak in favour of the latest amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to pick up on something that's been said earlier about return stability. I think the main driver of the chagrin that we are hearing in the room today is the opposition's disappointment that this administration has remained stable. We're a significant way through our second balanced budget. We've invested in our communities, we've improved services, we've grown our housing stock, we've improved waste services, we've improved leisure centres, we've worked for our district, and that has been supported by the leadership of the Council. It's not possible to achieve all that we have without stability. Far from inaction, due process was followed. I'm concerned that some of the comments being made today seem to seek to undermine that due process. The leader supported due process. That is the point of process and policy. They are to be followed in all situations, not subverted or bypassed on the whims or fancy of anyone. If we throw the rules out because we feel that we are morally justified, what happens when we choose to throw a different rule out because we don't like it, because it is inconvenient? We are trying to bypass checks and balances here by adding another layer of punishment that this takes away. We abide by the rule of law and the constitution of this council as a point of principle, and as I have painfully learnt over the past 8 weeks, principles must be followed when they are difficult as well as when they are easy. It is easy to sit and scream and shout and tantrum from the sides. It is difficult to work with people with whom you have fundamental disagreements, even if that is the right thing to do. The process has come to a conclusion. The process has made recommendations. The process should see a line drawn. That is the point. We do not believe in a system where nobody can be redeemed. If the process is simply to be bypassed or have extra punishments dropped on top of it, what is the point of having the process? There is no point listening to it. This leads to justice open only to the interpretation of a single person, with no checks, no balances. That is not democracy. Democracy upholds due process. I argue we respect the outcome of the proceedings, we uphold due process, we vote for this very helpful amendment.
Councillor Gill.
I think I'll wait for that to be written down before I comment on that. But look, okay, we'll read the room here. Look, there's clearly a concern about what happened in the last year. However, we have a motion here, and as I say, we need to get to that debate, not hate, so I will accept this amendment. However, it is incumbent upon this administration and leadership to try and turn the page on the 9 code of conduct breaches that we've had in the last year. So I will accept this amendment, and I hope that we all support it. But this is clearly widespread concern about the bullying, about the appalling behaviour. It's appalling behaviour. So I will accept this amendment, and I suggest we go pretty quickly to a vote.
It's what I want, Councillor Gill, but I would just like to point out to all gentlemen, thank you, and ladies, if you were shouting. I would like to point out, I think you took a little more leeway than you should have on the accepting of the vote, but I applaud you for doing that. But as you said, reading the room, because this was only going one way if you hadn't. I would like to personally, now we will, in that case, colleagues, I take the advice of people who are more knowledgeable than me. I apologise for my last remark unreservedly. Thank you. And I think it is important we go straight to the vote. A recorded vote was asked for, but I am certain this vote is only going one way. So unless there is a repeat request for a recorded vote, we will go to an electric vote. Anyone want a recorded vote, or are you happy with an electric one? Councillor?
Order. My microphone not on. It's on. Thanks. Right. So, could you advise that because he's accepted this amendment, then this is now their substantive, Okay, so we are voting on the substantive and that's the end of the debate.
Yes.
In terms of the recorded votes, does the existing vote to say that we want a recording vote still stand?
Yes. On advice, and also because I think it's a very sensible thing to do, I'd like to invite Pam Bird, who is chair of the Standards Committee, to have the last word in this debate, and I'm going to do that. Pam, are you happy and willing to say something about process?
Thank you, yes. I've tried to keep, obviously, wanting to keep quiet on the whole matter, but I would just like to clarify that the hearings that we have recently had are very much time delayed against the actual incidents of the behaviour that we've been talking about here. The incidents themselves historically were either last March and I think something in May. So we've actually been several months. This isn't a recent problem of any behaviour. This is quite a sort of, it's just the way the systems work. It's quite a long delay. And I just really wanted to say this isn't what is happening now or in recent months. This is something that we've cleared up now from the past, as it were. We've been nearly a year since, and things, in fact, if I'd just like to, if you don't mind, Sue, I'd just like to quote Sue Woolley, if I can get in here. In one of the published reports, more than 12 months on, people have generally learnt to be a little more careful with the language they use. It was a little bit rocky to start with, but things have settled down. So I'd just like to sort of leave us with that thought that we are moving forward, things have settled down, and debate, not hate, is certainly where we're all coming from. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you for your hard work. I'm now going to ask Graham to explain the recorded vote scenario, where we are with that, then we will go to a vote. Graham.
Thank you, Chairman. When the recorded vote was requested, it was a very different motion to what it is now. Just clarity, really, as to those that requested the recorded vote, whether that's still something that you wish to undertake or whether you're happy for us to proceed with a normal vote. So it's just a clarification, really. I think it was Councillor Kelly that was the first to request such a vote. Thank you.
Yes, well, can I ask if you're all happy with what we're actually voting on? Do you need to read it out, Graham, or is it very, very simple?
So, for clarification for all members, the substantive motion is that this council reaffirms the principles of the LGA Debate Not Hate campaign, as per the screen. Thank you.
That's where we're at. Please vote when it comes up on the screen. The vote is 52 for, 1 abstentions, so 53 totally passed. Thank you, colleagues. That concludes the business of the meeting. I hope we've managed to air a lot and be able to move forwards. So, thank you for your attendance. Look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. And you have to wait until... Sorry, but that's the case.
Please be upstanding for the Chairman of the Council. Thank you.